Jonesboro. My dad was born in Bono, and Jonesboro, I understand now, is a suburb of Bono. Delighted to be back here. I hope you'll listen carefully, because this is going to be probably the most expensive speech you've ever heard in your life. Because I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes, and in 10 minutes, you're going to be $27 million farther in debt. Because we're going into debt, folks, at the rate of $2.7 million a minute in this country. $2.7 million a minute. I got to tell you, we are on a fast track. We are on the fast track to a train wreck. And we're headed there faster than we can possibly imagine. Let me ask you this. When we talk about the federal debt and the federal government having money, whose money is that? That's your money. And if it's a federal debt, whose debt is that? It's our debt, folks. It's important to understand what the federal debt is doing to us today. For instance, the federal debt today is devaluing the money in your pocket. That dollar bill in your pocket is getting less and less in value by the second. I've got a dollar bill in my pocket right here. Have you seen one of these lately? Seen one of these lately? Yes. If you don't believe this is decreasing in value, go buy a gallon of gas. Or go buy a gallon of milk. Or go buy a head of lettuce. Right? In fact, this dollar bill looks a whole lot more like this one now. Can you see that?
Barely.
This is where we are, barely. You can see it. But I have in my pocket where we're going. You probably haven't seen one of these. This is a $50 billion bill. Seriously. This is a $50 billion bill from Zimbabwe. And this $50 billion bill is worth less than this $1 bill I've got right here. Folks, this is where we're going if we don't turn this train around fast. That's what this debt is doing to you at this very moment. The second thing this debt is doing to you, it is destroying your liberty and your freedom. Folks, Thomas Jefferson said that as government grows, liberty shrinks. And the reason we have an enormous debt today is because government has gotten too big. And government costs too much because government has gotten too big. And the bigger government grows, the less freedom you have. And as government expands and reaches its tentacles into every part of your life, the more your freedoms shrink. So the dollar bill in your pocket is shrinking by the second, and your liberties and your freedoms are shrinking by the second. But perhaps more tragically than anything is that we are destroying the opportunity for our children and our grandchildren to enjoy the blessings of liberty that we have as Americans. Folks, we are in danger of being the first generation of Americans in history to fail to leave their children the hope of a better future. I don't know, well, I do know about you. I started to say I don't know about you, but I do know about you, and you don't want to be a member of that generation. I don't want to be a member of that generation. What do we do about it? There are a lot of folks around who think we can't do anything about it. What can we do about it? Let me give you a list of things we can do about it. Number one, we can understand that we can't wait any longer to change it. Folks, the time has run out. We've got to start now. You cannot be worried. We cannot be worried about getting through today. We have got to understand that we have to change our priorities and start focusing on the very real emergency of the moment. Secondly, what can we do about it? We've got people we've already elected to office. Well, some of them we didn't elect to office. Somebody else did. But they're still our representatives. And unfortunately, not all of them are like John Hubbard. I pray that we will have a house full in the House of Representatives and the Arkansas State Senate that are like John Hubbard. Amen? He's been one of my heroes in Little Rock this year. And folks, what we have to do now is we have to hold the officials we've got now accountable. What does that mean? That means we take time to listen to what they say. We take time to find out how they vote. We take time to communicate to them how we want them to represent us, and to remind them that we want them to represent our interests, not theirs. It means you write letters and you make phone calls and you send emails. And folks, that takes time, but you've got to sign up for it. Because the fact is that we in this generation have to be prepared to make a sacrifice that is at least equal to those who formed the country. Because we've got to understand that to continue this republic, it will require a sacrifice of no less magnitude than those who gave to create this country. We've got to sign up for that. Third, we've got to go to work and find and elect men and women who are committed to a smaller government, to fiscal responsibility, to transparency in government. Now, that sounds easy to do, but folks, it's not. It means you got to work hard. You find somebody you can get behind and you work. You give money. You give a lot of money. You give as much money as your children and grandchildren are important to you. That's how much you give. And you put up yard signs and you make phone calls. And you work and you go to rallies and you help these people who make a commitment to the kind of government that we inherited from our fathers and forefathers to get elected to office. The third thing you got to do is you got to run for office. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. There are candidates standing in this crowd. Some of you got to sign up. Quit talking about sending somebody else. It's time you went yourself. That means you got to sign up and you have to run for office, because I want to tell you, this country and this state are depending on you doing that very thing. And then the fifth thing we got to do, folks, and listen carefully, is we got to pray. Because we are at a place in our country, I am convinced, where if God doesn't intervene, we are without hope. So we have got to be on our faces and on our knees praying for God to intervene in our country and in this situation, because without His help and without His intervention, we will not succeed. I was waiting for an amen. Folks, here's where we are. We are standing on the edge of the cliff of socialism. We are looking down into the dry gulch of despotism and tyranny. And we must stand up and say we will not be pushed any farther down that cliff. We don't have to fight with bayonets and bullets and bloody feet like our forefathers did. At least I pray we won't have to. But folks, we've got to sign up for a battle. And we've got to fight it with well-articulated principles and with unmatched passion and with an indefatigable commitment and with an unwillingness to quit or give up until we right the ship of state for the glory of God and for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. And folks, the time is now to do it. Andrew Napolitano said 3 summers ago, speaking to a group. By the way, Andrew Napolitano is no relation to Janet Napolitano. Let me just make that clear. Andrew Napolitano, Judge Andrew Napolitano said, seldom in history is one generation given the responsibility for defending liberty in the hour of its greatest need. And then he said, you are that generation. This is your responsibility, and now is the time. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you, Judge Moore.